This is Pastor John and elect Lady Vestina, Creighton of Christ-like Fellowship of Tarpon Springs. Thank you for joining us again for another segment of Your Relationship versus the Call. So once again, we just bring you some practical tips, learning how to work together and deal with when one of you have a call, whether it's in the ministry or dealing with a career, and how to work together concerning your family and understanding your position when somebody has a call. So today we're discussing
Before we go further, we want to make sure that just for those that may be joining us for the first time, like Pastor Hubby said, that this is what is this, number 3 or number 4? Number 3. I don't know. The topic for today is we actually have strategy guides that we put together based on our experiences, and this is the third installment of a 4-part series. The first one that we did was enjoying the fruit of your marriage by winning 9 battles together. This is about the spiritual battles that as a couple that you should learn to fight together so you can live that abundant life. And then the second one is more of a practical guide, everyday natural things. Sometimes these are things that creep up on us, that happen that we're not prepared for. And we call it Get Your House in Order. What do you do? Are you prepared when life happens? So that's another strategy guide. And we also have videos on this very same channel that you can go back and check it out. And we discuss each one of those different areas. And then the third one is your relationship versus the call. And like Pastor Hubby said, that it's really focused on those that are, well, it's not just the ministry when someone has a call on their life, but it also can apply to someone who just, is driven by a career, or the career is demanding, and you're trying to figure out, how do I fit in this? And sometimes you see that call or that ambitious nature drives them so that sometimes you feel like it's a competition to your relationship. And so that's what this strategy guide is all about, is how do you navigate that world, still keep your relationship tight as a couple and not see that thing, being the ministry or career, as competition. And it was really birthed out of my experience because the Pastor Hubby has had a call on his life for a very long time, and he had a call on before he and I got together. And as we've gone on this journey, initially he wasn't an ordained minister, but then when we got together, God called him into the ministry, called him to a different level to start our own ministry, a grassroots ministry. And we really should do a series about grassroots ministry. That in and of itself is a party. But with that being said, because it's so demanding, I saw it as like competition, because I felt like he was being called outside of the home and it kind of put a strain on our relationship. So this was birthed out of more of my experience. Because I would tell people, and I steal it from a young lady I knew from a church that we met in, it's like, it's his call, not mine. So it's like, how do you fit in that? And, so these are just little tips on how to keep your relationship strong. And so that is not competing against, but is supporting and aligning with it, if that makes sense. So just kind of want to bring you guys up to speed on that.
Yeah, understanding that anything you do, you got to have an agreement and understanding. As Amos 3:3 say, how can 2 walk together except they be agreed?
Yeah.
No matter what it is, you got to understand, what that person calling is, their responsibility, like you say, whether it's to minister or career or what have you, that's demanding. So our supported scripture today comes from 1 Corinthians 10:4, and it says, and drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. So Christ is all about bringing us together in unity and fellowship. And he said, let all things be done decent and in order. So be willing to talk about everything and communicate, no matter how demanding it is. Having understanding goes a long way.
Yeah.
So like you said, to bring you to that point and realize, okay, it's not a competition, but we got to figure out how to balance this thing.
Absolutely. And oh my gosh, that's the key to is balance. And just to bring you up to speed, this is our third topic on this particular subject. And the first one that we talked about was about romance, how to make sure that you keep your romantical life, intact. And then also the last week we talked about friendship, how important it is to be a friend to your spouse. It's not just about love is a great cornerstone, it's a great place to start, but friendship is, to me, is what is the glue. Because sometimes you're not feeling all romantical and lovey-dovey and all of that, and you need a friend no matter what. Through good times, bad times, when you took those vows and sickness and health and all of that stuff, yeah, your friendship is the one that gives you that stick-to-itiveness, in addition to that love, because love is that cornerstone, is the foundation. But in order for you to thrive and grow together, you need to have a friendship. And in that friendship, you need to like each other. Even if you don't like a behavior, sometimes you need to like each other. And you need to nurture that relationship.
Amen.
And so this week we're talking about camaraderie. And camaraderie is more about, and in this guide we actually put in a definition from Webster. And Webster says that camaraderie is mutual trust and friendship among people who spend a lot of time together. But camaraderie is a little different, a little tricky, but we're going to try to go deeper, and hopefully you'll get the main idea about why it's important to have a camaraderie. In addition to having that romance, in addition to being a friend, you still got to have a camaraderie. And so, honey, you want to read our little write-up about it?
All right. Although very familiar, very similar to friendship, camaraderie is different. In short, a comrade is an ally.
And we can pin it right there. It's an ally. You need to be each other's allies, guys. You need to be. I need somebody when I'm going or I'm being challenged. I need someone who's in my corner.
In your corner.
That's
and realizing
right.
An ally is not necessarily a person that's always your friend, but
That's
a person
right.
that supports you with a specific goal and got your back, like you say, when the
Right.
chips are down. So that's the difference. Of friends going to stick there, but an ally is somebody that supports you on a specific goal or targeted area. Y'all trying to accomplish something together. So you can have a friend who is not an ally. An ally is someone who agrees to help and support your cause against opposition. In a marriage, you should know and understand what is important to your spouse so that you can give them the support they need from you.
And that's so important because I think some people, and I think also this where, going back to last week when we talked about friendship, that's where you kind of learn those things. Because oftentimes, when you get together, depending on how you come together, some people start having those romantical feelings and all that. And oftentimes you don't get to the nitty gritty of things. You really don't learn who that person is and what are those causes that are important to them. And it's important to know what is important to your spouse, because then you can start having a discussion on how can I support you in that cause. And that's a little challenging sometimes because sometimes we think we know. We know, we know each other. Yeah, I think knowing each other, it's a process. It's like that onion. It's like there are different layers that you peel back and, and things happen and circumstances happen. Because as we go through life brings about different challenges, and then that helps either grow you up or it really makes you, it kind of presses you to a point where you realize what you're made of and what you're not made of. What you said, enough pressure burst a steel pipe.
Amen.
Yeah.
And then the thing about it, like you say, you never stop learning each other because as you spend more time together, through time and decades, your perspective and all that changes. The way you approach things changes. So you can't just think you always got that person figured out because, their mindset changed because, like you say, life happened. It can cause different things to change physically, mentally, emotionally. So, understanding what you're working with. So, and
support is so, guys, I can't stress that enough about how important it is to feel supported by your spouse. I can't say that enough. I mean, even in like him being called to the ministry, Even though I'm not at that level where he is, and I don't feel like I have that call like he has on his life, but as his helpmeet, I am called to support him in that. And I had to realize, what does that support look like? Because, and you figure it out as you go. Because I didn't know when he said that God called him to start this ministry. I'm like, okay, what does that look like and what does that mean? Because we came from established, denominations or part of unions. Everything was very structured. So you just kind of slid into something that was already on the road. You just kind of merged into it. Right. Now you're at a point now where you're trying to build everything. You don't have no support system. You don't have administrative assistant. You don't have no ushers. You don't have no deacons. You don't got nothing. You starting from talk about grassroots.
Yes, just you and God.
Right. It's like even when we started, it was like we started the ministry with our own little tithes and offerings or what. I mean, we started, y'all, I'm talking like it was like desolate land out there. And it's like, well, how do you support each other in that? And there are different levels of support. There's the emotional support. I'm still trying to figure out how to emotionally support my pastor hubby, because there are things that I just don't understand. I don't get. And I feel like it's okay. It's okay that I don't get it. But I love him enough to try to understand where I fit in it. But he has to be open enough to be able to try to communicate that to me. Because a lot of times you think somebody should know just because it's for God and we're riding for God. I said, what does that mean, riding for God? Because for me, I was riding for God before I met you. But I was riding for him sitting in the pew, and I was okay with that. Now you telling me I need to do something else. And he's the type of person where what I've learned over time is that if I don't necessarily be there, he'll just go do it himself, But, and the thing is, what I'm hoping as time goes on, he can't do it by himself. He just can't. I mean, you can go out there and try to do it, but then you exhaust yourself, and then, you're not as effective. We need to walk together. You can't, no man is an island. There's a reason why God brought people together. There's a reason why God, when he puts a man and a woman together, there's a purpose for that. And so in that, you got to have other people. We can't do the ministry just by ourselves. We need, and that's where it's important to understand that, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Pastor Hubby, it's opposition when you trying to start a ministry, isn't it?
No, absolutely.
So it's like when there's opposition, he needs to have somebody in his corner to fight the opposition and know how to fight appropriately. When and how. I don't know, because I'm the type of person like, anybody got time for that. It's like, why we got to do that? So I struggle with that because I still haven't reached that point where I'm just like, okay, I do it because I trust that it's a call on his life. And I don't know if that makes sense. It's like, it's not something that has just been, it's like God is growing me to that level as we walk through this or whatever. But I trust that he is doing what he believes God has called him to do. And that's important. Not what he thinks he is in his own thing. Is that I honestly believe that he believed that God has called him to do that. And that's a difference. Because sometimes we get in our own little, had these bright ideas.
Yeah. And I can assure you this wasn't my bright idea, because I never had a desire to pastor. So I ran from it for a while till God just brought me to that place of brokenness and where I had to surrender all to his will. Like I said, understand that God gives you a vision, but you can't carry it out by yourself. That's why he gives you support. That's why he gives you allies. That's why he put people out there. And at the end of the day, you got to trust God, because I'm a firm believer. If he gives the vision, he's got to give the provision, because it's his business. So trust me, because you're not smart enough. You don't have enough resources. You can't do this on your own. But as the buyer, you can try. You might have the money. You might be talented enough, got enough people. Bit of success.
But in terms of what the world thinks.
Right. I mean, you can go out there and be doing something, but if it's not in the will of God, as the scriptures say, except God build a house, they that laboreth in vain. So we just go through the motion if we're not allowing God to lead us. And the people, like you say, like my wife and the members that come, they got to trust you that you're trusting God and believe in, what God has called you to do. So you definitely need camaraderie. You definitely need ally. You need support to do the things that God called you to do. So we have a couple of suggestions to help establish and build your camaraderie. So I turn that over to you.
Okay. Spend quality time together. It's so simple, and it's not quantity. It's quality. Okay. And that's one of the things, and we talked about that in a previous video, is that talking about the 5 love languages, and certainly would encourage you guys to go read that book. I think it's Gary Chapman is the author of that book, where you talk about your different love languages. And my love language, one of them is quality time. It's like, I just need it. And if I feel like I'm not getting it, then I will let him know. And we've gotten to the point now where he can kind of pick up on it, and he knows, or he just makes it this is part of the way I navigate life with my relationship with my spouse, is that I know this is what she needs. So I just, it's just part of how we do things. And so, yes, I want to make sure that is, yes, Gary Chapman, the 5 love languages, check that out. But spending quality time is so important. I don't care if you're in the ministry or not. As a couple, you need to make it a priority to have quality time, especially those who have children, especially if you get demands outside of your house. Spend quality time, because that's what happens. A lot of people start going in their own directions. And before you know it, you're married, living single, because you're doing your own thing. You're passing each other in the, hey, where you going to be? It's like, then you're like, you come one day, 10 years down the line, 15 years, and you're looking at each other like, who are you and why? Because you've gone off and established your own life outside of this. This is your hub. Your house is your hub. You just come back here to sleep and refuel, but then you go out and live your life outside of each other. And I can pretty much guarantee you that's probably not, even if you stay together, you're not thriving in that relationship. You're not getting the most out of it. You're not living that abundant life that I feel that God called us as a couple to have. And then the next one is have a discussion to get a mutual understanding on what quality time is. Now, just because some of us, he may decide that quality time is one thing, and I may decide quality time is something else. And it's like, it's up to you guys to communicate with each other what that looks like.
Right.
And we know he pretty much knows what quality time looks like to me. I don't know if you even need that quality time like that. It's like he has other different love language or whatever. It's like, not that, what you saying, you don't want to spend no time with me?
No, I do spend time with you. I'm saying I don't require the type of time like you do, like you say. Right. My love language is different, so. Right.
And so, but when you're in a relationship, like his love language is physical touch kind of thing. And it's like, okay, what else, but it's like, because I love him and this is what he needs. And I want us to be happy. And I want him to be, good in our relationship. You always identify those things that what makes your spouse. So why are you together if you don't sit there and take the time to figure out what makes that person happy? Right. That doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, that's one of the things that you really want to, determine what that looks like for you as a couple. Now, remember, all of this is about strengthening your relationship so you don't see those things, whether it be ministry or career, as a competition. Because as long as you tight, your relationship is tight, you're like, okay, then, you kind of ride with it. It's not something separate from it. It's part of it.
Part of it, absolutely.
Yeah. And so be consistent. You know how it goes. It's like, initially you were all good. You full on. And then next thing you know, you kind of peter off. And then sometimes those things happen. But make it part of your relationship. Absolutely. It's a necessity. It's absolutely a necessity. And you need to be consistent. Now, some people don't have an issue with this. So it's just totally, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But for some of us who have a tendency to kind of veer off the path or whatever, you really got to make it a conscious effort to be consistent about this part of your relationship.
Absolutely. And like we have understanding now that Friday nights is our appointed time where we really make a conscious effort to, spend time together, because she still works and we have our weekly stuff that we go through. My weekly stuff I do at the church and run, unless it's something that we already know we're going to together. Friday night, like I said, it used to be Home Depot, but now
well, those were the days.
Yeah, but now she's into the YouTube, whether it's us sitting on the shades watching YouTube, ordering our pizza, whatever we're gonna have on Friday night, or watching a movie on demand, and I tell her the next day what the movie was about because she's gonna fall asleep.
Right.
But you know, that's what it takes for us. You know,
Yeah.
it's simple. It's not a strain, like you say, but having an understanding, knowing what it takes, what quality time means to one another. Because what special and means something to you might not mean nothing to the next couple. So you got to make sure you have that communication and understanding between you and your spouse. So.
And I like what you said. It's not some big, lofty, grand thing. You know, it doesn't have to be. I'll put it like that.
Right.
It's just something very simple. It's just, once again, coming down to having that conversation and have that mutual understanding of what that looks like.
Yeah, some people might need all of that.
Yeah.
The stars, the moon. And
yeah,
the
well, let's
sky.
fly over to Paris for the weekend. That's quality time for me.
No.
And you know, the thing is, it's like, no, that's not. Because quite frankly, I'm not a big traveler type person, because it's annoying, because you have to pack your crap and then you got to go, and it's just a whole lot of stuff, that the frenzy of it. And I told my husband, it's a lot of work, and I'm a homebody. I'm good as long as I'm comfortable in my house. I'm happy. I'm pretty content. So, and the last thing is, be intentional. Okay, make your quality time a priority. You got to do, especially if before you came together, you had such a big life outside of that person. And you were like, some folks just got to be involved in everything. They're part of every committee. They're the chairman of this. They're the vice president of that. And they're doing all these things. And that's wonderful and fantastic. But when you merge together, you got to make sure that there's some time carved out for just you and your spouse that has nothing to do with a committee or some kind of cause or whatever. You got to make sure that there's a place where you connect. You have to establish your bond as a couple. So all these other things can happen, but your bond stays the same. And you got to nurture it just like you nurture going to your committee meetings and your cause meetings. You better look at your relationship as a cause and have your meetings and all of that stuff. Because a lot of times we put a lot more effort to what's going on outside because you carry some type of title. You don't put that same kind of effort because you think, well, you're my spouse. You're supposed to be. No, well, who said that?
Well, and I understand, especially when it comes to ministry, and we got to understand, and I've seen a lot of ministers make this mistake, and leaders I watched come up through the years, that our first ministry is home, the marriage, and we get out of balance where we spend so much time at the church and doing all these other things. But the Bible tells a man, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for. So we got to make sure everything is right at the house first. The word even say, how can you rule the house of God if you can't rule your own house well? So there has to be balance in your home before you can go take, and God wants us to be on one accord. He said that our prayers be not hindered. So we have got to have a good relationship and understanding at the house. Rather, worry about doing this, looking like we got it going on in front of the church folk, in front of everybody else. Then you come back home, like my wife saying, you living single. She on the east wing, you on the west wing. You don't even know when they home or not. But when we go out in front of everybody, look like it just going on.
Boy, they're the power couple.
Exactly. And people do live like that.
And people do live like that, but it's about what you choose to live in your house. Right. And this is just, like I said, we don't sit in judgment of anyone. We do these guys because of what we feel like has worked for us and what we're working on. And especially being in the ministry, because it is such a big demand.
Yes.
And it's very challenging. And you've got to be on one accord, guys. I don't care, because, yes, I'm not saying that you don't have your own individual thing going on, but you've got to make sure that the core of who you are is solid. And it takes work to make sure that that's solid and to keep it solid. It didn't happen when you said, I do. And he said, now I present to you Mr. and Mrs. Y'all, you just agreed to be a couple. You aren't really a couple yet because you ain't gonna do nothing yet. Yeah. Wait till life start happening, start gut punching you. And then let's see if you still can stick together and ride. Ride for one another.
That's what you learned you're made of.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And we've said it time and time again. It's like when things hit you, crisis come, emergencies come. It's either gonna pull you together or press you apart. And it's so important. That's the reason why we try to do this guide, to make sure that there's just certain basic elements that you have in place and that you nurture in your relationship. So when other stuff happens, your foundation at home, well, first of all, our foundation is God, First and foremost. And because our foundation is the principles of God and what we vow to him and promise for him and man, that to death do us part and all of that, our promise to him is what motivates us to keep our vows with each other.
Amen.
You got to have Christ first. You got to have, because that's the thing that will make you, like I said, love motivates, faith sustains. Because there are going to be some things that come in your life where it's easier for you to walk away.
Yes.
And you'll entertain that thought, you know what? And we've had this conversation, being totally transparent. We've even had a conversation like, should we even be married? Because the call on his life was so great that that he's got to go and do whatever it's like. And it's like, do I have what it takes to be able to be the husband, the man of the house, and then also fulfill my role, the call that he's given me to lead this ministry? And it's that deep, guys. And this is just being honest about it. And so you have to sit down and say, God, is this where you have us to be?
Amen. Is
this what you want us to be? Am I supposed to be in a marriage and still do what you call me to do? Those are some hard, people don't talk. I don't think people talk about that, honey. No. They don't. And I mean, that's a real conversation that we've had.
Absolutely.
It's like, you know what? And his thing was, his thing is he's so delivered from people. He's like, if I walk, if we decided this is not something that we can stay in because I'm not able to do both of these things, then it is what it is, So, and it's like, wow, that kind of hit, like, wow, that your call is that great that you would walk out of your marriage so that you can fully focus on what God called you to do. Guys, these are real conversations and they're very tough conversations. But when you're mature and that you've established a friendship, you have camaraderie and all of a sudden, you can have those really tough conversations. And then you get to a point and say, you know what? We in it to win it. God called it.
And you got to have that. Because so many people stay in it for the appearance of church folks and this and that and just going through the motion. And it's really not a marriage. It's some type of agreement just to look good before people.
I call it public relationships.
Yeah, we want to be right before God in every aspect of our life. And I don't want to ruin nobody else's life, and hold nobody else up. So we had that conversation, but we good. Yeah. And, we're going to strive to please God and give it our all. And we, like she said, we in it to win it.
That's it.
We got our fur baby, and we got our fish, and we going down this track. We're going to please God and please each other as we grow in God and watch God continue to bless and grow in our marriage and our relationship.
Absolutely. And once again, guys, it's about a choice.
This
is a choice that we've made. A choice to stick in it. A choice to... What is it? Sickness and health, to death. I mean, all of that, guys. We've experienced all that. Okay.
For worse, for richer, for poor, for sickness and
in health. Yeah. Right. And the thing is, so we real grown folk. Okay. This ain't no play for us. We want to live the abundant life, but we also know it requires work and maturity to experience that. So we're just hoping that whatever we share, any nuggets, if nothing else, have the conversation. Have those discussions or whatever. And the thing is, God would give it to you. He would give you the strength. He'll show you which way to go. And you'll, on the other side of through, you'll be better and stronger for it. And trust and believe you will be able to live the abundant life in the midst of all the stuff that happens.
That's right.
Okay? So remember to like, share, comment. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to this channel. And next week, come back and we're actually going to be talking about alliance. That's another area as far as in a relationship that you need to nurture is being an alliance, which is a little different from camaraderie. So come back and check it out with us. So until next time.